everyone. Welcome back. I've been gone a long time. My name is Dawn Ellen Morris. I am a personal trainer and group fitness instructor, part-time wellness coach, and I'm so happy to be back. Davidian and I, my producer, just had our own little tirade that we went on before we even started recording. We had our own little podcast going that we did not record. So I'm kind of psyched right now. I'd like to reintroduce myself. Like I said, I've been gone a while. And there is a story behind this. So I'm going to tell you my story today. I want you to sit back and relax and listen. This is not so much a cautionary tale. Usually cautionary tales mean that the person didn't do what they were supposed to do. I actually did everything I was supposed to do. This is a story to remind everyone that self-care is so important. Taking care of yourself so that you can take care of other people is so important. And sometimes we get wrapped up in life and we forget these things. But that's why I'm here, right? To help you out. Being a personal trainer and being on the run all of the time caused me to trip up a little bit. I wore my body down. I was sick and didn't know it. And I'm going to let you know all about it. I've been rebuilding and thought I would let you know what's been going on. So this is how it goes down. Since about 2016, I was on the move. You know how we get? We're running. Life is going pretty well. We're out there. I was teaching sometimes upwards to 16 classes a week, Zumba, Plyo, strength training. What am I missing? I'm missing a few. Plus personal training. So some days, 10-hour days, 12-hour days, moving it, shaking it, loving it. And all of a sudden started to feel really lethargic, not just tired, but lethargic. That type of tired where if you were to sit down somewhere, you would go to sleep and you feel as if you can't move, anemic. Didn't think anything of it because sometimes I am anemic. I did go to the doctor, so it wasn't me not going to the doctor. I did all of the right things. Water, eating right, exercise, of course, is what I do. Everything I was supposed to do. That was around late 2015, 2016. Became progressively worse. I'm thinking, well, I'm about to be 50. I'm in my 40s, whatever, late 40s. Maybe I'm menopausal. I went back to the doctor. Yeah, that's what it is. Now, mind you, no blood tests were being taken. There was the guessing game. Oh yeah, Dawn, that's what it is. You're menopausal. Hey, I'm not a doctor. I just go by what you tell me. Okay, well, let me do this and let me be proactive because that's who I am. All right, it gets worse. Now there's pain in my joints. And what's funny, and we can laugh about this, what's funny is other personal trainers are taking guesses at to what's going on with me. Dawn, I think you have bursitis. Really? You think I have bursitis? And I have other personal trainers poking me in my arms and let me just massage your back. That's what it is. You have bursitis and you have sciatica. Really? Yeah. I go to another doctor. I'm poo-pooed. Red flags everywhere. So around 2017, I get up one morning and the pain that was, it was bad pain, but I'm still working. I'm not teaching classes anymore because I'm too exhausted and I have too much pain. Around that time, I get up in the morning And the pain is excruciating. And this is not me being dramatic. The pain was excruciating. And anyone who's been in labor, I've had 4 children. I know what labor is. I've herniated 2 discs in my back, so I know what pain is. I've had a bulging disc. I know what pain is. This was a level of pain that was breathtaking. I felt swollen. I had already called one of my doctors, and they're like, well, we'll give you more prednisone. So it's putting a Band-Aid on someone who's hemorrhaging. It's not working. I'm in pain. I try to get down the stairs. I do get down the steps, crying the whole way. I sit down and then I can't move. My ex-husband sees me, picks me up, and takes me to the emergency room. From that moment on, it has been a bit surreal. Not just at the fact that my body did this, but how you're treated in the medical community. 1, being a Black woman, 2, being a woman. The derision, the snide comments, when they don't know what's going on with you. So instead of just saying, we don't know, you're almost put on the defense, because then it feels as if they're blaming you for what's happening to you. When you are doing all of the right things and you're going to the doctors and you're getting the blood test and you're working within your network and you're still being treated this way, it makes you, 1, angry. And I do have a temper. It makes you sad and afraid. And it's okay to say that you're afraid. Dealing with chronic pain, and now this has turned into a chronic pain situation. This is what it came down to. I had to go outside of my network. I had to go see specialists. And finally getting to doctors who said, okay, why hasn't a plan been created for you? Why hasn't a panel of blood been taken? Why haven't these things been done? So I'm finally with doctors who do that. Well, what this turned out to be was, are you ready? A urinary tract infection that was not taken care of, that became septic, that turned into E. coli, that got into my bloodstream and has wreaked havoc ever since. Yeah, a urinary tract infection. So I started doing my own research, and urinary tract infections can be very dangerous. Who knew? They can become, turn into sepsis and cause death, ankylosing spondylitis, all manner of SI issues. Who knew? This girl did not, and I wasn't told. This could have been taken care of with just them putting me on IV, an antibiotic, and a series put me in the hospital, and this could have been gone. That wasn't done. I was allowed to have this. Oh, and another thing. I know for the women who have had urinary tract infections, and I have, Dawn, how could you have not felt that? Because urinary tract infections, there's a bee in my house. It just flew by me. So let's just hope that bee does not get on me, because if it does, you're going to see a show like you've never seen. Dawn ripping and running through here trying to get the bee off of her. So hopefully it'll stay in that window and mind its own business, but I am sitting by a bunch of flowers. So there's that. Anyway. What I didn't know is that urinary tract infections, as you get older, the symptoms change. I didn't know that. No one told me that. You might not feel the pain of a urinary tract infection. I did not. I felt nausea, so I did go to the doctor. I know I'm not pregnant, so I knew it wasn't pregnancy. I went to the doctor for everything. And I was never told that you have a urinary tract infection and we need to treat this urinary tract infection. And because you are older, you don't have the same symptoms. So this has turned into a chronic pain situation. Now I'll segue into how that changed my life, especially being in the fitness industry. I've had to change how I view my own body, because the first thing that I had, besides sadness and depression, was the fact that I felt my body betrayed me. How dare you get sick on me? My body is my business. And dealing with that, and trying to be happy. And anyone who follows me on Twitter or anyone who reads my blogs, you know that I'm all about happiness. And it has been a struggle to find happiness every day, find something to be grateful for when you're so used to teaching classes and getting up and, hopping out of the bed and teaching people to be fit, teaching people to be happy. And now, guess what? I have to live by my own words. And I thought that I was until this hit me. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Going back and forth to the doctors and dealing with that. I'm trying to be kind today. My doctor told me, do not get on your podcast and tear down doctors, because I know you. Oh yeah, there's the B. There's the B. He left, or she left. I'm not here to do that. I am also not here. This is my disclaimer. I don't want anyone to say, well, Dawn says don't go to doctors. Oh no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is go. But be aware of who you're dealing with. Do your research. Be very specific and clarify how you're feeling. Do not allow them to talk over you. And when they become snooty and become self-righteous and try to make you feel as if you don't have the right to question them, understand, as one of my good friends says, hi Holly, they are not magicians. They do not have a magic wand. Number two, they are not God. Last I checked, none of them have walked on water. And they are imperfect humans just like us, and they do make mistakes. Number three, it is your body, it is your money, and you have every right to question what they are saying and what they are doing. So when you go, if you have to deal with that, you stop them just the way I did, and you ask them, are you having a bad day? And leave it at that. You have every right to get up and walk out of the examination room. You do not have to sit there and deal with someone who does not want to answer your questions, because this is your health and your body. It's the same thing I've said to you about hiring a personal trainer. The same rules apply. This is your body. This is your time. This is your money. They don't get paid if you don't pay them. And for all of us, for a lot of us, it's always the bottom line. They want their money. So with that said, being a woman and being a Black person in this here America, you must be sure that you are dealing with people who have your best interests at heart. At that time, I was not dealing with people who had my best interests at heart. I didn't know it. But through my own research and stepping outside of my network, I finally got to doctors who said, no, it's not this. And no, I'm not going to diagnose you just by tapping your shoulders and your hips. And yes, that happened. No blood was taken. Oh yeah, you have fibromyalgia. Really? You didn't take any blood. How do you know that? Oh, I know. That was done. I didn't make that story up for your entertainment. So, with that said, what works when you're in this situation where your whole life has been disrupted, dismantled, scattered to the four winds? You regroup. You feel what you need to feel. And that's what I had to learn to do. I'll tell you an experience. When I was in the thick of it, as my daughters like to call it, the thick of the pain, the denial, the anger, I wouldn't allow myself to cry in front of my children. I wasn't raised to do that. Crying was deemed weak. Some of you can relate to that, right? Crying is seen as weak. You get up, you keep it moving, you shut your mouth, and you keep it moving. So I would, when the pain would hit me, and I would tell my daughters, leave my room and shut my doors, so that I could put a pillow over my face and cry. And finally, my eldest daughter came over to me, and I'm on the bed shaking. And she puts pillows behind my back, and she said, no, I won't leave the room. She said, cry. It's okay, Mama. Cry. And seriously, it was one of the ugliest things, because I couldn't get the tears out. So it was like, and finally, the floodgates opened, and I allowed myself to feel the pain in front of one of my children. And I didn't want to do that, because no matter how old your children are, no child wants to see their parent in pain. No child, it's hard for children to see that. But my eldest daughter happens to have sickle cell SC, and she knows pain. And she said to me, you do not have to hide in front of me. Go ahead, cry, scream, do what you need to do to feel what you need to feel, so that we can help you. We can't help you if you're hiding. We have to help you, because when I tell you, I could barely walk, I could barely dress myself, I couldn't lift my arms over my head because of the pain. My joints were so swollen. I had to have help taking showers. I had to have help getting on the toilet. All of these things that we take for granted, Dawn had to have help doing. So I had to be able to come to grips with what was happening to my body and not feel betrayed. My body did not betray me. I was let down by the medical community. I didn't let myself down. I did everything I was supposed to. So if you're in this situation and you're feeling these feelings and you're angry, be angry, but use it to help yourself. How did I do that? I had to rebuild muscle mass. My daughters helped me with that. From square one, level, 2-pound dumbbells. I could barely pick up 2-pound dumbbells. And I had to, one of my daughters would hold up her hands, and I would try to punch her hands, and then I'd lie down, and then I'd get back up. Don't give up hope. I just wrote a blog about that. Dawn's Fit2beFree. Yeah, I'm plugging myself. Never give up hope. And there will be days when you are in pain. There will be days where you're just very angry. There will be days where you're very sad. But you cannot give up hope. You must move. And believe it or not, with what's going on with my body, exercise is the one thing that actually helps. You have to get the joints moving. You have to be able to get up and walk a little bit and lift weights to build muscle mass, even when you're tired, even when you're in pain, even when you want to curse out the world, you want to curse yourself out. I have done that. I mumble to myself daily, And yes, I do respond in my head so I don't scare people. And it's all right. You have to change your diet. So I thought that my diet was fabulous. Well, wrong. I was dehydrated. I thought that I was drinking enough water. It's what I do for a living, right? Everyone has a different amount of water that they are supposed to drink. I've learned so much because of this illness. I obviously was dehydrated. I've had to juice more. Anyone, once again, who follows me on Twitter knows that I'm all about the juicing. I'm all about the smoothies because, and I'm quoting a doctor who said this to me, if you hadn't been doing those green smoothies that I am so gung-ho about, I don't even want to think about where you'd be. That infection was shutting down my organs. I was getting all of my nutrients from just every day doing my green smoothie, thinking I'm just living my life, I'm just doing me. Those green smoothies saved my life. Without laughter, true that, those green smoothies saved my life, which is why I push them. We've got to do better, people. We have to do better for ourselves. Even when you think you are, do better than best. Do the smoothies. Walk 20 minutes a day. I don't say this because I'm trying to get clients. I'm not saying this because I have a brand to push, my own brand. No, I'm telling you this because it saved my life. Those green smoothies, I turned my nose up at them. I don't want to drink them. I was doing 2 a day. They literally saved my life. And so go to the vegetable area in your grocery store and get all your veggies, your kale, your spinach, your collard greens, those deep green veggies, and blend them, cook them. I don't care what you do. Get them in. So that's what I've been doing. And it has really opened my eyes to where I was being neglectful with just my time. While you're out in the rat race, and there are a lot of rats in that race, is it worth it? You know, Davidion, my producer here, we had this sidebar podcast going on, and he made such a great point. We focus so much on the negative, and yes, I know there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Just this morning, just yesterday, how many shootings can we list? How many deaths can we list? Sickness, all depraved behavior. Yeah, we all know. But when it becomes the focus of our life, then we find no joy. And there still is joy. You can create your own joy. So I'm on this mission, right? I'm on this mission to feel good. And like I said to Davidion, within the law, nothing illegal. So no drugs, no hard liquor and you walking down the street being crazy, nothing like that. But what brings you happiness? I have had to reevaluate the things that I thought were important. That actually, when I was lying in my bed, writhing in pain, I wasn't thinking about those things. I was thinking about how am I going to not only survive whatever's going on with me, but live. Because there's this quote, are you breathing and calling it living? Are you just breathing and calling it living? A lot of people aren't living, but they get up every day and they're not happy and they are inundated with sadness and watching the news and talking about the news and talking about something negative and being around people that are negative, and they just feed each other. And it's the beast that's never happy. It's the beast that's never full. So what do you do at least 2 to 3 times a week that can or does bring you happiness? And that's my mission. I've been challenging everyone to find that thing. And I'm not just talking about exercise, but hey, if you don't do it and that makes you happy, I say do it. Exercise. 20 minutes, step outside. And I'm not talking about power walking. Just walk. It's so pretty. Walk. If sitting in a corner for 20 minutes, in silence, brings you peace of mind, sit in that corner. Shut yourself off. That was a tongue twister. And just sit in your silence. That brings you happiness, then do it. I realized I hadn't gotten a pedicure or a manicure in so long. Well, I've been sick. And I had to get over my ego. I had to get over my pride. Because someone might see me that knows me as Dawn the trainer and not just Dawn the woman. Dawn, the imperfect woman who got sick and sometimes doesn't walk very well, sometimes has pain, sometimes has to take a day where I lie in the bed and just mad at the world because I'm in pain. I had to get over my own ego. But I realized, oh my goodness, I miss getting my nails done. And I miss getting my feet done. Yeah, I've been doing them myself. It's not the same, and you know it's not the same. You go there and they massage your calf muscles and they massage your feet and they pamper you. And I missed that. And so I went and I was welcomed back. And hey, so what went on with you, Dawn? Where you been? And I told my story, and I kept it short, and because I didn't want to roll in it that day. I wanted to go and I wanted to be pampered. I didn't want to talk about that. And it was all good. So then I said, okay, what else can you do? Well, me and Davidion have both decided that we don't like outside, and we never have. But guess what? All of a sudden, I like gardening. I like planting things and watching it grow. And I've been doing that. And the peace that comes, there's the bee. Okay. There's the bee. The peace that comes with that has astounded me. I spray myself down with DEET. I have the DEET, and I go outside and I buy all of these flowers, and I'm loving it. And I think what I love about it is I like standing back and then seeing what I've done. And it takes me a while, and it's a good time. If it lands on me, I'm going to have a fit. You see, I bought outside in. Yeah, back to gardening. I have all of these flowers outside now, and for those that know me, people know I love to clean. I love cleaning, and then I like to stand back and smell the pine sol, and I like to see what I've done. It applies to gardening. I like to dig and put stuff in the dirt and then stand back and say, ooh, I did that, and it's so pretty. And then I run back in because it's outside. So if you can find something that brings you peace, if you can challenge yourself. So here's part of the homework. I'm going into it too soon, but bear with me. Homework for the week was and is find something that makes you happy, something that can be done in a short amount of time. You don't have to spend hours at it, and do it 2 to 3 times a week. The second part of that is, can you stop watching the news for a whole week? Ho ho! Hoo hoo! That's a big deal for some of you. I haven't watched the news in years. It's recycled mess. I'm 51 years old, and they keep telling the same stories. Same stories, more trauma. And I'm not going to disseminate trauma, and I'm not going to feed the beast. But I know for some of you, this is a hard challenge. You are wired into this monster, and to disconnect can be a huge lifestyle change. I get it. But can you disconnect for at least 3 days? Look, I even knocked it down from a week. Can you disconnect for 3 days? No negative stories. Try to find happy stories. Try to do something 2 to 3 times this week that will make and bring you happiness. That is the homework. That is what I'm challenging you to do. And then DM me. Write me. Follow me on Twitter. You don't even have to follow me. Just send me a message. I don't care about followers. I mean, I'm happy when people do, but I'm more about getting good information out there. I'm not looking at the numbers really. I just want people to work on their happiness and their self-care. So that's my mission. That is my mission for this podcast. That is my mission for my blogs. It's even my mission when I train, to help people feel better about where they are in life and to work with themselves. I am not who I was 3 years ago. Are any of us? I have had a huge change to my lifestyle, a hit to my ego, because most trainers are full of ego. We love what we do. We walk tall. We are preaching, feeling good and looking good. And so when you are hit with something that literally knocks your legs out from under you, literally and figuratively knocked my feet out from under me. Yeah, that's a slam to my ego, because I was Dawn the trainer. Dawn the trainer. I identified so much with being a trainer that I had to find a new identity. Still Dawn the trainer, but now I'm Dawn the woman. It's weird. I've always been a woman, but I didn't view myself like that. Not that being a woman is a bad thing. It's great. But I was Dawn the trainer. And so you must find joy. You must find other things that identify different aspects of your personality. What do you like to do? If you don't know, research. It's amazing when you take time with yourself what you will figure out. That's the challenge. So eating, I've talked to you about that. And where are you? Where are you now? And do you like where you are in your life? Where are you now? And do you like it? Do you feel comfortable in your skin? Do you feel comfortable with who you are? Because these are such huge aspects of who we become. If you're not comfortable with who you are, you can't find happiness. There's no peace. So work on this. That's part of the homework. That's where I hope you're writing all of this down. There will be a test. There will be a test. So that's my mission. As you notice, you didn't notice, the wine of the day, the wine of the week. This is my goblet of fire. All of my stemware is broken. This is what's left. This is a Merlot glass, but it's what I have, so it is big. But the wine of the week is Apothic Dark. It's a red blend, of course, California, and it's pretty good. Did you see it? Let me show it to you again. Apothic Dark, and it smells really good. It is good. I love the cork for it. It's black, and you can always bet on black. I love this, and it's really, it's tasty. I'm gonna take a sip. This is all research. This is all for you. It's all for you. It's not sweet. So if you like a sweet wine, this isn't for you. It is, it doesn't give you that at the back of your throat, so which is good because then I choke. I do the, it goes down really smooth. It sits really well in the chest. It blossoms. It warms you up. So Apothic Dark red blend. It's lovely. The self-help book. So most of you know I read 2 books at a time. I read a nonfiction and I read a fiction. So my nonfiction is The Fred Factor. I think I've brought this book up before, but as you can see, it's dog-eared because I've had it for a while and this is my second go round. It's coffee stained. I love this book and it's by Mark Sandborn. And it was, and I think it sometimes is, a national bestseller. And how passion in your work and life can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. I love this book. It teaches you how to be a better person, actually. And I need help with that. How to treat people, how to approach your job, even when you don't like your job. If you can approach your job, a job that you don't like, and go in every day with an attitude of gratitude. I know you've heard that saying so many times, but this is why it'll never get old, because it's true. Have an attitude of gratitude. Go in happy, even when you're dealing with D-bags. And I've had a few jobs. Even when you're dealing with D-bags. You don't have to take it personally. That is a choice. You don't have to be stressed out. That is also a choice. I know people get angry when I say that to them, but it is a choice. And it's also a choice for you to get angry at me. But this book helps you have a better attitude. When I first bought this book, it was years ago. I was still a secretary for the Waukegan School District, District 60, Go Bulldogs. So it's been some years, and it really did help me change my attitude. Not only, I loved my job. Don't get me wrong, I was grateful for my job. It put food on the table and all that good stuff. I had a beautiful office. I loved my office, but I was bored. I knew that I was meant to do something else. My attitude was not very good. Not that I would ever, spew on other people. I know how to be professional, but inside, I was not happy. I bought this book, and I started to do what he says to do. Change my attitude. Change the way I look at things. And then if you can do that, you will attract what you want. Not mystical at all. What we believe, what it's all perception, right? And if you can believe that you're meant to do something else and you go after that, that can happen. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to people who tell you that that is not an option, that that cannot happen, blah, 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 blah. These are people who live in fear. Don't take that personally. If you do, that is a choice. But when you decide that you're ready for change, when you decide that you want something different, get this book, read it, take notes. Like I said, this is my second go round. I still take notes. There are things that I missed, and I love it. I read a chapter every day. I take my notes, and I'm all good. So this is my nonfiction. The fiction that I'm reading, is the book that I'm going to read to you today. So, Dawn the Black Nerd, and I am a nerd, and I love being a nerd. I've always been a nerd. I am a reader to the bone, and anyone who knows me knows how much I love books, how much I love to read, and I love to share that with people. So I picked a book to read to you, and it's by one of my favorite writers since I was in the 6th grade. Seriously. The first book I read from Virginia Hamilton was Zelie. Maybe some of you have read that book. And she's dead now. When I found out she was dead, I won't lie to you, I cried as if someone in my own family had died. Me and another librarian, it was funny yet not funny, because she stood there in the stacks with me, and I was looking for a Virginia Hamilton book, and she said, Dawn, this is when I worked for the school district, and she says, you know, Virginia Hamilton just passed away. I didn't know. And I just stood there, because for me, when a writer dies, it's just, when anyone dies, it's sad, but the words and the knowledge and the stories that go with them, it's heartbreaking for me, a reader. And she was, in my opinion, gone too soon. But her books are still here, and so I can read them to you. So this book is called Sweet Whispers, Brother Rush. Maybe some of you have read it. If you haven't, well, I'm going to read it to you, and I want to read the first 2 chapters. This will be an incentive for me to come back so I can finish the book. You do not have to have the book. I'm reading to you. When was the last time someone read to you? Besides an audiobook. Okay, but that's not the same. It's me reading to you. I love to be read to, and it's very soothing. And so this is the book. As you can see, it is old. It's an old copy. I have read this book so many times. It never gets old for me. And so this is me reintroducing myself to you. I hope that you come back to the podcast, and I'm going to start reading to you. I will fade to black because I want you to sit back and enjoy the book. I don't want you to have to think. It's Sunday. Prepare for the week ahead. You have your homework. If you have any questions, I can be reached at or on Twitter at Dawn's Fit2beFree. That's fit, 2, numerical, B, lowercase b, free. Find me. Or Facebook, I'm still Dawn's Fit2beFree. You can. I don't have a picture up. It's just Dawn's Fit2beFree and my brand thingy, my logo, and my blog spot at blogspot.com. And you can't miss me. I'm doing a side plank by Lake Michigan. You cannot miss me. And it's also Dawn's Fit2beFree. I'm all over the place. LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn. I'm there too. I'm so happy to be back. I will be back next Sunday because I must finish reading the book to you. It's going to take a while. So sit back and enjoy me reading, enjoy the book, come back, wishing you love and peace, but mostly peace. I'm going to start reading. Once again, the book is called Sweet Whispers, Brother Rush. Chapter 1. The first time Teresa saw Brother was the way she would think of him ever after. Tree fell head over heels for him. It was love at first sight in a wild beating of her heart that took her breath. But it was a dark Friday 3 weeks later when it rained hard and wicked before she knew Brother Rush was a ghost. That first time Tree didn't notice that it was odd the way Brother happened to be there. He had been standing on a corner of Race Street the way the dudes will do after school, whether they went to school or not. He was standing, cool, waiting for whatever would happen to happen, just the way all the dudes did. Tree had come swinging around the corner of Race Street at Detroit Avenue on her way home. She was holding her books tight to her chest, hiding herself from the dudes. She had begun growing into a woman, which was the reason the dudes had started to catcall to her. "Hey, little girl, when you going to let me take you out?" "Sweet Tree, I'll walk you home, baby." "Doodab, you know walking by these shiftless clowns alone? Do your brother leave you in the house by yourself?" "Shoo, man, you know Dab ain't going nowhere, and Tree coming home from school." "I'll bring you home, Teresa, since you gone and grown so fine." Tree felt so ashamed of them, ashamed they had to go pick on her. One or two of them were quick to understand she wasn't ready for them. "Stop it, y'all," they told the others. "She ain't cooked yet good," and laughed about it. Tree knew they weren't bad dudes. Be never having nothing to do and nowhere to do it, she had thought. They laughed and joked so much to keep back that fear look. Tree had seen it, from showing through the hard glinting of their hungry eyes. It was when Tree was almost by them and they had stopped their calling after her that she had spied Brother Rush. He had been leaning on a stoop of an apartment building. She didn't have time to think about the fact that he was off by himself, although she made note of it. The other dudes didn't so much ignore him as they seemed to have forgotten about him. They acted like they didn't even know him or hadn't paid attention that he had come to lean there. Tree saw him at once. It was the way you see something that has been there all of the time, but you never had eyes open wide enough to see. It was like the figure of him jumped right out of space at her. Brother Rush hit her in one never-to-be-forgotten impression. His suit was good enough for a funeral or a wedding. Better than a suit for Sunday church or one for Thanksgiving. It was just too dressy for a school concert when you have the main solo. You have been paid 35 bills to sing because you are a homeboy, a graduate of the school who had done all right and has come on back as an example for the rest of the dudes. Dudes who will not yet admit that they will never leave Race Street or Detroit Avenue either, although they know they won't. They do know now. The suit was dark and rich looking, pinstripe perfection. The shirt was ivory with a shiny sword design that gave it more class than any shirt Tree had ever seen. The collar was uncrushed around Brother Rush's neck, but not so tight so that it bothered his Adam's apple. His tie was deep wine dark and silky. The belt he wore was black and the buckle was silver and spelled jazz in the prettiest script. That convinced Tree he was a musician, and she decided he was a piano player. Brother's shoes were black patent leather dress shoes with a high gloss, which he wore over gray silk socks. As far as Tree could tell that first time, Brother Rush's clothes were picture perfect. She imagined his underwear. He'd have on a snow-white undershirt with short sleeves, soft cottony shorts, nothing like her brother Dab's Fruit of the Loom with ratty tears. Brother's underwear would have no worn-through places. She hadn't realized that it was the message out of Brother's eyes that had caught her, had captured her. It had all happened so fast, or too fast. She had the impression of unbelievable good looks, tallness, slimness, those funeral clothes she'd never seen on any dude. Not even the ones into criminality dressed like Brother Rush, the ones who strutted flash smart and pimp fine, as her Ma-V said, upper lip curling. Tree understood that the way Brother Rush was dressed expressed his style as well as his melancholy. She made fleeting notice that Brother's skin was a pale brown with a good sprinkling of reddish freckles. He had refined features and full lips. His large nose was long, straight, with flared nostrils. His hair had the same reddish tint of the freckles, soft and tightly curled. And he wore suede gloves. She summed up her impression of him as absolutely handsome. His was an appearance of trim, muscular maleness, including his eyes. She denied the message that there in his eyes. It had gone too deeply inside her for her to fathom it at once. Even so, his eyes had taken her prisoner. Rush stood on the corner against a stoop with his legs crossed at the ankles. His right hand was cupped around his ear, as if he'd been singing along with some tough doo-wahs of an out-of-sight 1950s reissue and getting the background whisperings right in tune as well. Or else he had the whole record in his head and was using his hand to his ear to close out street sounds while he hummed the tune. Tree was certain she heard him whispering. His left hand was propped under his right elbow. The stone finest dude Tree had ever seen in her short life of going on 15 years. She didn't say anything to him. What was there to say? He knew he was fine. She knew it. She held her books and looked straight on as she went by him. Brother Rush seemed not to notice her passing by right before his eyes. His head never moved. He stared steadily into Race Street. She knew he had to be scoping on her the way she had scoped on him as she passed. Her insides had performed a wild screeching at her, like a girl swooning in some 50s movie clip she had seen on TV. Brother Rush had to belong to her. She belonged to him the moment she saw him. Him standing in the street was Tree's very first sighting of Brother. She didn't tell anyone about him. Not her mother, who was Viola, whom they called Ma-V. Ma-V, spoken Ma-V, with the softest sign to mean, miss you, mama, love you, mama. All the tenderness and grief she and her brother Dab felt at the thought of her when they were so alone sometimes without her. Sighing in their minds, Ma-V, Ma-V, a stirring of memories, like leaves lifting, swirling on a hot, sudden breeze. Tree didn't tell Dab about Brother Rush. There were days when Dab was home for her when she got home. He liked being home for her. He'd walk out of school early. There were times when they locked up the school so nobody could walk out. But her brother Dab would grow restless enough to find ways to get out. It was the best for him that he get out of there when he felt he had to leave. But she didn't tell him. Don't really know if he home 'cause he like being home for me, she thought. Think he home 'cause he don't have no place else to go. Dab don't, the same as me. He wouldn't know where else to go. He do care about me, probably, but that ain't why he come home. His name was Dabney, and everybody called him Dab. Dab this and Dab that. There was not a soul who had anything against Dab. No one in school, including the teachers, thought mean of him. Being almost 15, she knew why. Her brother wasn't a basketball star or the smartest person. No way was Dab the smartest dude around. He never got in any trouble. He never woofed on other dudes or anybody. He would never open his mouth in classes. Dab didn't bring home report cards. Tree and Ma-V wouldn't expect him to. Be happy he off the streets, Ma-V say. Streets ain't got nothing to tell a brother, him. They got nothing to tell a brother. Dab could do more deal with the hype of the street corners than he could work with opening his mouth in school. It was all right between her and Dab. He was 17 and he wasn't smart. There, she thought it. Some days his head hurt him so bad, he never got off the couch in the living room, lying there in his ratty robe, curled in a ball, saying that whenever lights get on certain places on his arms, it made him feel like he would jump out of his skin. Dab ain't smart. No way, Tree would say when she was by herself in her room or taking off her boots in the foyer. She wouldn't say it to anyone else, but she and Dab knew. She helped him with the countries out of his world history book. Dab had no trouble understanding continents, but all those little countries gave him a headache. Tree helped him with his math work. He had taken math for 2 years, the easiest commercial math, and it hadn't done him any good. She gave him a calculator she talked Mavi into buying him on Christmas. Gave the little thing to him as a present, hoping desperately it would help him. It just upset him. He couldn't find the figures that had to go into it to get the answers out. But Tree loved Dab. When she felt something was missing and she didn't know what it was, she'd go by Dab where he sat to lean on his shoulder. He'd move his head until their foreheads touched. That would last a minute. Then he would put his hands on his forehead and then hold them over his eyes. There they'd be in the house, so quiet. She'd take a deep breath and feel Dab breathe out in short bursts, like gasps of hurt. She would feel something missing from the house. Dab wouldn't mind her leaning on him. Sometimes he'd take hold of her hand and pat it in some kind of formal, gentlemanly way. Most of the time, though, when it was too quiet, he would have his hands over his eyes. But Tree didn't tell him about Brother Rush the first time she had seen him. The next time Tree saw Brother, she fell more in love with him. He was standing on the avenue, and again, she did not speak to him. This time, she noticed that his standing position might be out of the ordinary, yet the bold side of him swept away any worry. She was just there, and he was just there. Not every day he seemed to be there, one day in a week, and then another day, and then the next. Finally, she did tell Dab, and Dab smiled about it, not saying much. Dab had been busy right then. She could have picked a better time to tell him, instead of all of a sudden saying, "Dab, there's this guy I know. I like him fine." That didn't tell the whole truth, the loving truth, about how she felt at all. Dab had this new girl with him. He had lots of girls he brought home. To look at him, he was good looking, almost too pretty. Some girls like that, but none of them lasted long, or else Dab didn't last long with them. Whichever way it was, he would bring one home and another after them. Tree didn't see him bring girls home because he got home early when he left school early, or he would go out and bring them in at night after supper when she had gone to her room. When they didn't watch television, she and Dab had a habit of going off to their separate rooms. If Dab wasn't up in the morning by the time she was ready for school, she would have to go in and wake him up. Knock on his door and then go in and say, "Dab, Dab, wake up," and never scare him either. If she said Dab too loud, as she would do if she forgot, it would just get awful in that room. It would scare Dab half to death. He'd jump a foot off the bed. It didn't matter whether a girl was there or not. Still asleep, he would start swinging, running. Once he almost ran out the window. And when she had grabbed his arm to save him, he had swung on her and knocked her off her feet. Didn't hurt her, but it scared her. The only time Dab was ready to fight with you was when you woke him up too fast. If Tree had to go in and wake him, she was likely to find one of his girls there in the bed with him, and she would say to him, "Dab, Dab," very quietly. Dab would open his eyes just when she thought he wasn't going to hear her. Opening his eyes all of a sudden, staring at her, cold and alert. "Yeah, I hear you, baby Tree." Then the sweet emptiness would swim in a bright stream back into his eyes again. And he would say to the girl, "Baby, baby, time to go." Uh-huh. The girl would awake. When you are not familiar with a place, you wake up as soon as somebody steps into the room. Tree could tell the girl, the woman, was awake with her eyes closed by the way she held herself, bored stiff and still under the covers. This one was older than Dab and liked him because of that sweet, empty look that would take over his eyes, and because he was young and so pretty. Tree would leave the room and get ready to go to school. Then Dab would get up. He'd miss the first period of the morning 2 or 3 times a week because there would be someone overnight with him. And when Tree got home from school again, the girl might still be there. Once in a great while, Dab would bring one home after a regular school day. Tree would get home first. Then the girl would come in the house with Dab and see Tree, and Tree would hear them talking off in the kitchen. Hear the girl saying to Dab, "Why you babysitting her for? She can stay by herself. Shoot, she almost 15 years old. You don't have to hold her hand. That's not your job, man. That be your mama's job. She got a mama, hasn't she?" Dab wouldn't say much, looking at the girl with his sad, simple eyes, smile at her, and knowing Tree had heard it all. That would be the last time Tree would see that particular girl. After saying something like that, Dab got rid of them, always. So it was Tree and Dab together most of the time. Mavi was away for a lot of reasons. She worked, she lived at people's houses. She was into practical nursing. She made side bets on the street having to do with the daily lottery. V loved the Dream Book Almanac, numerology encyclopedia. Sometimes she dreamed lucky. Mavi lived in a patient's house. Tree didn't know how many different patients and houses and might be gone for weeks at a time. She would come by to Tree and Dab on a Saturday. She'd have money. And say, "Come on, Tree. Dab, you stay still. We gonna bring you back a goodie." They'd get on the bus and buy enough food and goodies to last a month. Store it. Every kitchen cupboard full to the brim with food and goodies. Tree must have said to Mavi when she was younger, "Why ain't you home?" And probably cried about that. But she didn't really remember. She didn't cry now because she was used to the way things were and knew they were the way they had to be. Mavi had to be somewhere else so she and Dab and Mavi too could have all the things they had to have. She supposed that Mavi was gone some of the time for her own pleasure. But Tree didn't think too much about that. She accepted Mavi as mood and background of her life. Ma was the color and shade of shadows that were always in the house. Tree could depend on the background. It was she and Dab who were alone together. And I shall be back next Sunday to continue. Wishing all of you love and peace, mostly love. Be safe. Have gratitude. Goodbye.